Welcome back to that one random podcast. I'm Cypher.
I'm Treble.
All right, what we're going to talk about today, Treble, well, I already picked it out. We're going to talk about Albert Pike.
Okay.
All right, and his alleged, I'm going to use certain words there because anyone who follows us, I know we got a community strike, guideline strike. We were banned for a week from uploading. I've not uploaded, neither has Treble, for a couple of weeks, a few weeks, just to kind of like keep ourselves a little bit safe and cool it down a little bit. But we're back. And I'm going to use certain words here. It doesn't mean that we don't believe something, but we've got to be careful how we say things because we are literally one strike away from being deleted, potentially.
Censorship
our great Trump debate was not allowed on YouTube because of certain things we were saying and talking about. We had a friend of the show, Bason. We will have him back for part 2, but it might not end up on YouTube because I don't want to hold back when it comes to that topic. But basically, it's on Rumble, it's on Spotify. They don't give us any problems. YouTube does. So if you want to go and watch that episode of the Great Trump Debate, it is about 4 hours long and it's only part 1. Go over to the other 2 platforms and go check it out. But we're going to talk about Albert Pike today.
Okay.
And he allegedly made 3 predictions. I think it's back in the 1700s or some point. It might say on the thing that I've just sent you. Where he predicted, as some say, the 3 world wars. Now, this was hundreds of years before even the First World War came around. And this man predicted 3 world wars. And he did it in great detail. And apparently, I'm not going to ruin it because obviously Treble's going to read off the information we do have. But apparently, this was actually on display in the British Museum for a while. And apparently, that letter that he wrote has now disappeared.
Really?
Yes. Apparently, Albert Pike, apparently Albert Pike was also a 33-degree Freemason.
Why is that apparently? I thought that was pretty...
Yeah, no, I'm just saying apparently, just for the sake of YouTube. Yeah. Like, don't take everything I say apparently and allegedly as that's what I mean it, yeah? But...
Because literally pictures with him.
Apparently. That's what he was. Yeah. Okay. If we're laughing at some point, you know what we mean by it, yeah? But yeah, apparently. Yeah, he's a 33-degree Freemason, which means he was quite high up within that society.
Knew some shit.
And apparently he wrote this letter, which people have taken as a prediction, as some people out there are saying it's not a prediction. He was actually laying out the plan.
That's how they do it.
This is apparently how they do it. So
not to go off topic, but that's the same with The Simpsons. I've been catching up on The Simpsons a little bit and all their predictions coming out. And some people are like, oh, it's just, they're guessing it or they've got so many episodes, it's inevitable. But actually, when you look at it from the bigger picture, like what we're talking about right here, who created The Simpsons? We're talking Matt Groening, who is allegedly or apparently also a high-level 33rd degree. Yeah. And so it's not that they're predicting anything. This is more, they're just showing you the game plan.
Yeah.
And it's predictive programming for us. So that when we see it happening, we're already kind of subconsciously aware of it because The Simpsons already programmed us to prepare for that. But this is in the game plan for years. These are in the books in their libraries and stuff. This is
apparently.
So I'm sure this, with Albert Pike, it's, we're talking a different generation of the same group of people. So yeah.
Cool. So look, start reading off a little bit. I think the first part is very much just an introduction to who Albert Pike was a little bit and about the so-called filing of the letter in the British Museum. Just kick off and then...
So Albert Pike and 3 world wars. Albert Pike received a vision. Ooh.
Oh God.
Which he described in a letter that he wrote to Mazzini dated August 15, 1871. So how many years would that be already?
Oh, wow. I thought it was the 1700s, but okay.
1871.
Wow.
So it's about, 250 years ago now.
And World War I started in 1914?
Yeah. So about 50 years after that.
Wow.
This letter graphically outlined plans for 3 world wars that were seen as necessary to bring about the one world order. And we can marvel at how accurately it has predicted events that have already taken place. So Pike's letter to Mazzini. It is commonly believed fallacy that for a short time, the Pike letter to Mazzini was on display in the British Museum Library in London, and it was copied by William Guy Carr, former intelligence officer in the Royal Canadian Navy. The British Library has confirmed in writing to me that such a document has never been in their possession. Convenient. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Furthermore, in Carr's book, Satan, Prince of This World, Carr includes the following footnote. The keeper of manuscripts recently informed the author that this letter is not catalogued in the British Museum Library. It seems strange that the man of Cardinal Rodriguez's knowledge should have said that it was in 1925. So in 1925, they're saying it was in the library, and then
some conflicting stories going on.
And then British Museum are now denying it. It appears that Carr learned about this letter from Cardinal Caro y Rodriguez of Santiago, Chile, who wrote The Mystery of Freemasonry Unveiled. To date, no conclusive proof exists to show that this letter was ever written. Nevertheless, the letter is widely quoted and the topic of much discussion. Following are apparently extracts of the letter showing how 3 world wars have been planned for many generations. All right, so
that's okay.
Did this letter exist? Did it not exist? Someone of high status said it existed in 1925, and the British Museum Library are now denying that it ever existed. And let's say that it did exist.
Yeah.
So what did it say? So the First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. Whoa.
Well, look, now finish it off and then I'll give a take.
Students of history will recognize that the political alliances of England on one side and Germany on the other, forged between 1871 and in 1898 by Otto von Bismarck, co-conspirator of Albert Pike, were instrumental in bringing about the First World War. So that's the First World War.
So, look, I don't know too much about World War One, not as much as I do about World War Two, because when we were in school, I don't know about how it was for you. I mean, and if you're new to the show, I'm 42. The Treble's now what, 25?
25, yeah.
25. So we're from 2 different generations. But I was told nothing about World War II and Winston Churchill and and they never ever really touched on World War One that I can remember. And if it was very brief. But that sounds pretty accurate from the stuff that I've researched over the year or documentaries I've watched over the years, in terms of how the Russian Tsars or the royal family was taken out of power, essentially. But I don't think I don't know if they said it in that. I can't remember what you just said, but I'm pretty sure the Russian Tsars, the German Tsar, and the royal family at the time, whoever was king, whatever at the time, they were all cousins as well.
Well, that's the thing.
And that wasn't a secret either.
Yeah. I mean, like the British royal family are actually German.
Yeah. The Windsor family actually are German. And a lot of people don't know that they are German. And what's his name, Prince Philip, or whatever, the Queen's hubby, he was very much, his side of the family were Nazi sympathizers, from what I understand as well. So it's a weird one how they're all interconnected and stuff like that. But that does sound quite accurate, what he's predicted, or what he apparently predicted there.
I mean, yeah, I think when you look at it from, when you talk about school's never going to tell us the truth. No. And I do remember a brief history lesson on World War One. But again, back at when you're like 12 years old, they make it out like, oh yeah, it's a world leader trying to take domination over another country. But now that we're older and we've done our own research, and when we're reading stuff like this, it's pretty obvious that, I mean, he says it here, man.
It's pretty accurate.
In order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the powers, this is a bigger game plan we're talking about, and everybody at the highest level are actually all, as we've just said, interconnected. So there you go.
Next bit.
Now, the Second World War. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism to be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, so Christians, I guess, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. Whoa.
Wow, okay, hold on. Read that bit again.
The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascist and the political Zionist. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until time where we would need it for the final social cataclysm. Well, this is the thing, yeah. I was raised as a Catholic. Christianity's kind of been in my circle for a long time. But the more that I go deeper into the conspiracy research, the more things are suggesting that Christianity is actually the movement that they're trying to bring down at its core. Like when we look at Satan running everything and it's all Antichrist movement, who are we referring to? Who's what year are we talking about? We're saying 2025. 2025 since what? And I think we're seeing it now with all the different agendas, how, Christianity is just...
I just feel like, with Christianity and Islam, right? I feel like there's a lot of similarities in what they believe the end game's going to be. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Their views on Jesus is different. Obviously, Christians believe Jesus to be the Son of God and part of the Holy Trinity, whereas Islam say no, he was a prophet. He's a prophet of Islam, and he's a prophet who was put on earth to share God's word, basically. And even in I believe in Islam, they say that there was no Joseph, there was just Mary, and she was still conceived the same way, where she just got pregnant. She was the Virgin Mary, and it was a very painful ordeal for her and stuff like that. Yeah, no, I've seen it. And apparently, I think in Islam, I believe they believe also that Jesus spoke as a baby as well.
It worked. It's like a little baby just speaking.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
So, yeah.
Oh, no, wait. No.
It would have been Aramaic back then, isn't it?
True.
Yeah. But I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the Son of God. Then imagine you saw a baby speaking fluently.
So it's like I see, like, you're right, that's probably a little bit of contradiction. I would have thought of that before, but I never given much to that thought of apparently Jesus talking as a baby in Islam. Because then you're thinking, well, that must be the Son of God then, really. How's he talking?
That's mad.
But yeah, there's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of differences, but they all both believe that, yes, Jesus will be the one who comes back to save us. John, you get it? Yeah, you're going to have Antichrist, you're going to have the false Messiah, and Jesus is the one you need to give yourself to, because if you don't, that's it. You're cooked, basically.
I bring it up just because obviously it says here, during the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Are you gonna use the return of Jesus where they talk about false Messiah?
Yeah.
He's clearly going to pretend he's Jesus.
Yeah. But that's the thing. What I mean by Christendom is in terms of believing and studying the Bible and following the word of God. Like, there's all these different holy books, different guidebooks onto life. Which one is the right one? Obviously, everything's been manipulated.
It was interesting. I had a clip. I don't know. We might play it today, and I have to watch the clip again before we can use it. But I had two young Muslim men. Well, I say young; they're probably a bit younger than me. Definitely between our age groups. Sounded like a couple of scholars, knew their religion, knew Christianity, and they weren't rude. They weren't like disrespectful to any religion. But they were talking about, like, I think it says in the Quran that every religion must be respected because every religion has at one point had a messenger come down. But unfortunately, at the same time, every religion that's come before Islam and Christianity has probably failed. So God is all. I've always thought this, yeah. So you've had Hinduism, right? And if anyone obviously I was born into Hinduism. I can't really say I'm a Hindu. Mm-hmm. I do believe in God. I do pray every morning, but I don't really do religion, basically. In that sense, I don't follow a religion. But I think you look at Hinduism and when they do the carbon dating on the Hindu scriptures, they're carbon dated older than the dinosaurs. Now, if you go and read the end story of...
dinosaurs are fake. Dinosaurs are fake.
They give me the timescales, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. This is why we get caught in trouble because you say shit like this at random times when we don't need it.
Sorry.
Yeah? All right. But essentially, if you read at the end of the story of Ram, right, Ram reveals himself to be Brahma, which is the one supreme God, because we only believe in one God. I know what everyone thinks, the Hindus believe in all these gods. No, we don't. We believe in one supreme God, and we have our own holy trinity. Yeah, as a kid, that's what I've learned. Yeah, so you have Brahma, you have Vishnu, and you have Shiva. Brahma is the creator. Then you have the other part of that trinity, which is Vishnu, who's the preserver, and then you have Shiva. When Brahma's not happy, destroy it all. Let's start again. So the story is that he reveals himself. I believe, if I remember this, I'm remembering this from when I was a kid. Ram reveals himself as Brahma on the earth, basically. Similar to someone else we're just talking about, like Jesus is the human embodiment of God, right? Reveals himself and says, okay, those who have achieved higher enlightenment, you're going to come up with me. And the rest of you're staying down here. Shiva, wipe it clean. Let's start again.
Flood it.
Yeah. Do you get it?
Yeah.
And it's funny, talking to Beck Lover as well, not talking to Beck Lover, but listening to Beck Lover the other day, he was saying the same thing, that every religion has the Noah story as well. Or a version of the Noah story where God has had to start over again. I mean, but then you go on stories. Even then you look at Hinduism. That to me was a sign that, okay, well then clearly Hinduism failed at that point. Yeah.
Who was Krishna in Hinduism? Because the link between Krishna and Jesus is that it's the Christ consciousness, and that's
Krishna was essentially, I believe he was like Jesus, that human, that God in flesh.
Okay.
Like, I don't look. Remember, I learned bits and bobs when I was a kid. Yeah, like I can't say I sit here and say I remember and I'm an expert at Hinduism. I can't. It goes deep. Like unless you've read the Bhagavad Gita, unless you've read all the Vedas, and all the scriptures, you're never really gonna. And remember, this was all written in Sanskrit as well. So if you don't know Sanskrit, you're not going to get the true meaning, because I believe I always say things get lost in translation. When you translate, it's like, I've said it before, when you watch a movie with subtitles and you're watching and you're reading the English, those words they're using are the closest words to describe that language that you're watching the movie in. Does that make sense? So essentially, it's the closest word they're looking for. So when you're translating things into English, you're looking for the closest word that will get to the meaning of what that word is being used in Aramaic or Sanskrit or okay. So I'm Hindu Punjabi, right? Mm-hmm. Right, I'm classic because I'm Hindu and we speak Punjabi, right? So if I tell a joke in Punjabi, I'm going to bust people up. So there's a really funny joke I know in Punjabi, and I will bust everyone up in the room.
Doesn't try. Yeah.
But if I say it in English, everyone's looking at me like, huh, okay, yeah. Or you might get a little bit of a laugh, and not as hard as a laugh if I say it in Punjabi, because the joke's been lost in translation. So, and it was interesting. I've always said that for so long, and listening to this guy called Beck Lover. I don't know too much about Beck Lover. I think he's like author, something like that. He's a researcher, author, or something like that. He was on a podcast the other day, and I watched like a 3-hour podcast. It was interesting. And he said the same thing. He said that if you really want to understand Christianity, go learn Aramaic. Yeah? You need to go and learn. If you want to really understand the Quran properly,
you have to learn Arabic.
You got to learn Arabic.
Yeah, that's I've heard that one.
Which is facts.
Yeah, you got to learn it in Arabic.
You can't read these things in English because the translation is lost because it from the actual original language to English. So now you're reading it in English, and now you're misinterpreting what the message and what the scripture is actually telling you. So you could be sitting there and God says, in Aramaic, it's actually saying, in English, sorry, it's saying, God is telling you to do this, and then you read it in Aramaic, well, so actually God actually didn't say that, he said this.
But at the very least, even with the translations that we do have, if the translation says XYZ, the system doesn't even want us to believe in
God.
In God at all. So, back to this whole Albert Pike thing, what he's saying about trying to destroy Christendom, like to destroy Christianity in a sense, but also to bring about atheism as a state. And I don't know how much, like, maybe our listeners have looked into what these high level alleged people believe in, but in their encyclopedia, if you look at what their definition of an atheist is, they call the atheist the most stupid person on earth. In the Freemasons encyclopedia, if you look at the definition of atheist.
Hold on. Freemasons say atheists are the stupidest people in the...
Not even worth your conversation. They say they're the stupidest people.
Why? Because they're godless.
The atheist, yeah. And Freemasons, I'm not saying that they still do have knowledge. And part of that knowledge is knowing that there is a God. And it's so obvious that there is a God. But there are people who are atheists who don't believe in God, and to them that they are stupid. And so one of their ways to keep the population dumb is to push atheism, because it's a real, like, look how many stupid people we have.
Well, when you think about it, though, look at the world right now, right? Let's look at the, not even just the West. Let's look at everywhere, right? People that have lost faith in God or belief in God, or never even had it from the beginning. These are the very same people who are going around and committing the kinds of sins that were committed in Babylon, which God frowned upon.
Very much so. But why are these people godless? And it's stemming from a culture, from the environment. And as Albert Pike's kind of laying out the game plan, or what this guy Carr said in the beginning of it, it starts with Satanism, and then they convert that into scientism, and scientism then leads into atheism. And so when you're talking about God, for example, a lot of people reject it because they believe in science. I'm an atheist because I believe in science. But again, where is this science coming from? And I'm not saying all science is fake, obviously not. But I'm just trying to, put the point out there that it is all distraction away from the truth. That these guys in the 1800s and before, where you had to have insider knowledge, you had to have a membership, for lack of better words, to go and access the libraries and learn this stuff. We're quite lucky in today's world where you can just Google it. Everything's out there now. So you can just Google the Freemasons encyclopedia and stuff like that. You can learn all of this.
Remember, if you're struggling to find it even on Google, there's DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, it's all... Brave.
DuckDuckGo is the place to go if you really want to go for deep stuff that you can't find on Google.
The internet kind of was a bit of a paradox for these people, because they released it as a means to control us. But then they didn't realize that once you've opened Pandora's box, it's now open. And so as much as they wanted to try and control us using the internet, they actually gave us more freedom in a sense, because we now have unlimited access to information, etc. And now the only way they can try and reel it back in is to just flood it with nonsense.
Yeah.
Flood it with bullshit, flood it with degeneracy, and just hope that people aren't smart enough to actually Google and research for themselves. And I think it's worked pretty successfully in that sense, in the flooding it.
Well, we're going to play 2 clips on Beck Lover later on, right? Okay, but it's interesting what you just touched on there, right? Is that people are lazy now. Yeah, I can only say from 15 years ago, because I worked out a lot of this stuff 15 years ago, listening to people and then going and doing my own research on the back of it. I was like, okay, I'm on the right track here with this stuff. Yeah. Could I say I'm as diligent as I used to be in maybe over the last 3-4 years? Yes or no, hit or miss, depending on the subject. And then I tend to listen to a voice that I've always listened to. I think, okay, cool, that's an interesting point. But do I go deep into it as I used to? Probably not. So we have become lazy as a society, and we just tend to trust the people that we like, I suppose, or people that have made an impression on us or have gained influence over us and think, yeah, see, trust that guy. He knows what he's talking about, or she knows what she's talking about. And why would I need to go and research it?
And that's the definition of ignorance.
Yeah.
So, ignorance literally breaks down into the word ignore and so you're ignorant if you ignore stuff. If you didn't know it, then you're considered naive. But if you have the opportunity to receive this information and you actively ignored it through laziness or through a rejection, you are ignorant. But I don't know if we'll be able to also add an overlay of the definition of an atheist from the Freemasons Encyclopedia, just to show the viewers that this is legit. Like they really do look at it as, you guys are the stupidest people. And that's the game plan.
All I'm going to say, like, right, okay, you've got artists out there right now, yeah? Artists out there right now, musicians, etc., especially the musicians, the music industry, right, who are blatantly putting symbolism in your face now. They're not just hiding it in there or subtly putting it in their videos anymore and making it out like it's just part of the fun of the video or whatever it is, or the performance on stage. They're blatantly put in your face. There are artists out there right now who are blatantly wearing upside down crosses around their neck.
Yep.
Yeah. These people clearly believe in that entity, right? And they've sworn an allegiance to that entity. So if they're doing that, and these are the people you follow, clearly there's a God in there.
Well, this is the irony of it all. It's like,
clearly there's a creator.
You don't need to believe in it, but know that they do. And by they, I mean the people who run the world, the people, the high level multimillionaires, billionaires, trillionaires, elite families, whatever you want to call it, Hollywood, music industry, celebrities, A-listers, whatever. You don't have to believe it, but know that these people do. And the reason why you don't believe it is because they've somehow managed to convince you not to believe it. Make it make sense. Do you know what I mean? Like the people up there believe it, and they're telling you don't believe it.
But a lot of pseudoscience has helped with that, hasn't it? And then your lack of energy to go and research it for yourself because you believe that these are more superior individuals in terms of their intellect, and you would never be able to understand what they're talking about. Or this is the trick.
That's how they do it.
This is the trick, though, right? Right. And when you're younger, you probably were the same. We all were like, I'm not going to understand that. But then as you get older and you start looking into it, you think, this ain't that hard to understand. It's quite simple and easy. And then when you start breaking down, you look at, well, hold on, that doesn't make sense. If A and B equals C, why are you telling me A and B equals E?
Oh, I didn't want to bring it up, yeah, but that's basically the flat earth in a nutshell. That basically, when you're like 5 years old and they tell you a globe and they say, oh, but it's too complicated for you to understand. This is the basic idea of the model. You're on a spinning ball. And you kind of go your whole life just believing, yeah, this teacher wouldn't lie to me. The scientist wouldn't lie to me. They're just so much smarter. They know it. Rocket science, it's so much more complicated that just trust them.
Okay, look, Treble's a hard flat earther, right?
I think it's pretty obvious.
I've never looked into it, so as I've never looked into it, I don't really comment on it.
Fair enough.
So, but yeah, I like for now I go with what Treble tells me, but at the moment, I'll be honest with you, I wind him up a little bit as well because it's fun. Yeah, because he's such a hard believer.
It's so
of it.
obvious.
But in a nutshell, when you get older, you realise that those who can't teach, and those who tend to teach are pretty much indoctrinated into a ideology,
and just passing on,
which they're passing. It's a memory. Education is a memory test. Yeah, and it was interesting. All right, I was watching. You watched Sylvester Stallone's Tulsa King.
I haven't actually. Is it any good?
It's a pretty decent watch.
Is it a documentary movie?
No. So I
Tulsa King.
It was on.
It's from Tulsa, is it? Or
it's in Tulsa, isn't it? So it's set there. So, in the other last month, I think it was the season one was being put up on Amazon for like $7.99. I thought, oh, sorry, I'll buy it now. I kind of wanted to watch this anyway. Yeah. So I watched it, and there's a really good, in one of the episodes, he talks about to the driver, young driver he has driving him around the city and stuff like that, yeah, who works for him, about college. And they get into this conversation of college. And the only thing about that scene that stuck out to me was what Stallone says, yeah, he goes, you know what college is about, right? And the other guy's like giving, oh yeah, education, get a job. He goes, no. College is about you letting a potential employer know one day that you turned up somewhere at a certain time and stayed until a certain time every day for the last 4 years or whatever it was. And if they hire you, you will do the same for them in exchange for money.
Basically, in a nutshell.
That you will turn up on time like a good little boy or girl, sit behind your desk, punch away on your keys or whatever it is you're doing.
Complete work to a deadline.
And then finished on time, or maybe even stay a little bit longer if you need to get work done, and go home. And you'll do it near enough every single day of the week, apart from the weekends or your days off. That's what college is about. You proving that you'll be a good worker bee and make that person rich, or contribute to making that person rich.
Yeah,
that's education.
I dodged a uni scam. I saw it already when I was quite, before even university was a thing. I already had that in my back of my head that this doesn't really make sense as a legit way of progression. And then with the way my school was pushing it so hard in sixth form, you have to go to university, where university kind of sixth form, where we want everybody to go to top universities. And I think I was one of 3 people in my whole year group who didn't go to university. Like, I did an apprenticeship and so on. But this idea of being 16 years old, 17 years old, not knowing, or even 15, because you choose your A-levels to lead you on to university, being 15 years old, deciding what I wanted to do at 18 to commit to for 4 years, spend 60 to 100 grand, and not even guarantee myself any. It just sounded so crazy.
But this is what I said when it comes to education, right? I've always said it about education. I've said, you're telling me by 16 years old, I need to have my whole life planned out. Why? And then you realize it's programming.
Yeah? Scam.
You need to fit into the system somewhere, and you need to play your part. Yeah. Turn up to work every day. Work hard so others can get rich. Here's your peanuts. Yeah. And by the way, we're going to tax you on those peanuts. So we're paying you 10 peanuts. We're going to take 1 peanut away. Oh, don't forget, you got to pay your rent. You got to pay your VAT. You got to pay your council tax. You got to pay all this other stuff, your income, all of that sort of stuff. And guess what? Now you're left with about 5 peanuts. Yeah.
And you still want to have a life, right? So that you're going to give that peanut away. And if you're lucky,
you might take split one of those peanuts in 2, and then split that in 2, and then that'll be your little bit of savings for the month. And the rest, you're just going to have to blow on food and shit. And because you want things in this materialistic world, because people are influenced that way, you consume. That's your job. Your job is to go to work like a good little boy or girl. Doesn't matter what level you're at, because there's people out there who probably go thinking, well, I make £250,000 a year. Yes, you are still a worker bee. You're just a top level worker bee. You're a wage slave. But it's like the slavery of old, right? Let's use black people.
I'd actually argue that it might even be worse today.
It probably is. We don't see it.
That says that.
But I'm going to give like an example. Let's look at slavery of old. Let's use black people in America. I'm going to use it.
Okay.
All right. There were different types of slaves.
Yeah.
You had the field hands who got whipped and slapped and beaten into submission to go. And if they didn't do their work, they get a good hiding, right? Right. They picked the cotton and whatever they did out in the fields. They ate the master's scraps. Hence why a lot of black people today eat things like chitlins, which is like pig's guts or something like intestine, pig feet and stuff like that. Because these are things that have been passed on to you from your slave ancestors. Then you had the other type of slaves, the house slaves.
Yes, master. Yes, master.
Yeah. They got the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. They even got to probably live in the house.
Yeah.
Sleep in the house.
Wearing a suit and tie.
Wearing a nice suit, clothes, get to bathe every day, get good, clean, nice food. Do you know what I mean? They got it all. Right. Now take that example I've given you and translate it to the modern world, the society you live in. Yeah. There's the field hands. People filling shelves, people sweeping the floors, cleaning the toilets, collecting your rubbish. And then you've got the house slaves, the guys sitting up in the
office,
city somewhere behind a desk in a cubicle, handling £1 billion budget a year or whatever it might be, earning $250,000 a year, all that stuff. There's two types. There's many types. There's levels to this slavery. And that's the bit that people don't get. When you say slavery, but because we've been programmed from birth to believe that actually, no, this is how a society should run. This is how, this is how we all have to play our part and fit in somewhere. If you want a better life, go get an education, go work in, do you get it? But actually what they're teaching you to do is be a debt slave.
So to add to that,
I mean, we're going to get too. I think we've gone a little bit probably a bit too far on that. But it's a good conversation.
I do just want to say though that education is necessary, just not necessarily education from these old
self-education is necessary.
Yeah, I think education as a means of learning and
look at this
researching is necessary, but education from schools and these university institutions and stuff like that are bullshit.
But look at it this way. Yeah, I've said this before as well. Okay, Richard Branson is a billionaire. The guy failed his O levels, right? And for those of you who aren't old enough to, who are too young to understand what I mean by O levels back in his days were the GCSEs. He failed them all. He started on a market stall selling something or another, and now he's a billionaire. Look at some of the names here. Like Alan Sugar. Yeah. Even the Mr. Diddler, who's that guy didn't go to college. Yeah, you look at Bill Gates, you look at Steve Jobs, all these guys, none of them went. They're all like, why am I wasting my time with this?
We also have to add, though, you can't be an idiot as well. Like, these guys are smart people, but they understood that the educational system was a scam.
But that's about, but everyone has the potential to be a smart person. It's about whether you're willing to apply it.
Yeah.
And I believe that you can do that and apply yourself to learning. Yeah. If you're just going to sit there thinking you're a dumb shit, then you're going to spend the rest of your life as a dumb shit, aren't you?
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, like I lost where we were. We went a bit off track there, didn't we?
We went off very off. So
good conversation though.
Random. All right, back to the world wars then. Shit. After this Second World War, communism was made strong enough to begin taking over weaker governments. In 1945, the Potsdam Conference between Truman, Churchill and Stalin, a large portion of Europe was simply handed over to Russia, and on the other side of the world, the aftermath of the war with Japan helped to sweep the tide of communism into China. Readers who argue that the terms Nazism and Zionism were not known in 1871 should remember that the Illuminati invented both of these movements. In addition, communism as an ideology and as a coined phrase originates in France during the Revolution. In 1785, Restif coined the phrase 4 years before revolution broke out. Restif and Babeuf, in turn, were influenced by Rousseau, as was the most famous conspirator of them all, Adam Weishaupt. Okay, so that's the Second World War. Mm-hmm. And we did go on a little bit of a tangent, so back to this.
Very accurate.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened. And, you know, there's a documentary, allegedly. It's a banned documentary. I don't know if you've heard of it. I don't want to say it just in case.
Say it.
Europa, The Last Battle.
Yeah, remember you told me I haven't got a chance to watch it.
I only saw episode 1. It's a banned documentary. You won't find it anywhere.
You need to go
find it on BitChute.
You need to go on BitChute, guys.
And there's like new people uploading it all the time because it gets taken down, I think. Let's just say, if you Google it, it's going to say that there's anti-Semitic rhetoric. But obviously, you should make up your own mind up, right? You should be able to watch something. That's the whole point of freedom. You should be able to watch it and make your own assumptions. Say, yeah, that was biased and anti-Semitic, or they did touch on some points that are true. And I only saw episode 1, and episode 1 covered World War I, World War II kind of time frame. And it pointed out that communism from the Stalin era and so on were all that demographic of Jews. That was their movement. So that they were all Zionists. And when we talk about that time frame with the other guy from, with the mustache, there was that 6 million figure. But then if you look at how many the communism movement killed over a span of 40 years, I think it was like 20 million people were killed. I think they called it the Holodomor?
Well, don't forget though, allegedly, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep using that word a lot now. Yeah, allegedly, I believe the same amount of Russians died in concentration camps in World War II as the Jews did. But yet you'd never hear about those Russians who died in those concentration camps. It's always about the Jewish suffering. I like to think there was a lot of people who suffered during World War II, and I'm sure the Nazis would have had more than just one concentration camp for, like they did for the Jews, because they talk about Auschwitz all the time. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, but I'm sure there were more.
Yeah, there was loads.
There was loads. And apparently the Russians also suffered the same amount went through the same amount of suffering as the Jews did, but you never hear that. Because you think about it now, communism is the enemy. Well, we can't do that, because then people will start feeling maybe sympathy towards the Russians.
But the thing was with that documentary,
clearly by what you're reading, it will go against the gender as well, right?
Yeah. But like people like Marx, Stalin, all those communist leaders from that time period were all from a certain bloodline of race / religion. I've got to be careful with the words. Allegedly.
Yeah.
So that kind of puts it into a weirder context as well, that communism and Zionism is actually the same thing in that sense. So
we said it before, communism and socialism is the same thing as well. Marxism is the beginning point, and it either turns into one or two, and those two are probably the most corrupt forms of Marxism. So,
and Marx was a Jew.
There you go.
So, and he got his training from, again, we're talking about Albert Pike from 1871, and this is just one guy, but we're talking about a society with loads of members and loads of different factions within that society. They've got their own lodges and so on. When you talk about Marx and Stalin and all these people, they weren't the first. Then they had their training, for lack of better words, and it comes from this long history of, I've got to be careful with the words in it, but it's interesting that it says here Nazism is destroyed and the political Zionism be strong enough, because if Zionism and communism is the same thing, that's exactly what happened in the Second World War.
Mm-hmm.
So and then the Third World War. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agenters of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. Who is the Islamic world? So we're talking like Saudi and all these royal families in the Middle East. Yeah. Oh shit! That's why they've been just trying to go there all the time, innit?
But read through it, and we'll break it down in a minute, because.
All right, so the Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agenters of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against a world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. What the fuck was that about, bruv?
So it's essentially like, okay, look, was that it? Was there more?
And the last bit is, since the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, world events, and in particular in the Middle East, show a growing unrest and instability between modern Zionism and the Arabic world. This is completely in line with the call of a third world war to be fought between the two and their allies on both sides. The third world war is still to come, and recent events show us that is not too far off.
So when you look at what's going on right now, okay, so now it started off with, and this is where I said I felt with this alleged letter, yeah, okay. I remember this is me just giving my opinion. When this conflict in Gaza started again between Israel and Hamas and whoever, yeah, I said to my mates in our WhatsApp group, I said, watch, this is the point where what I've been saying for years is going to happen. You're going to get a World War III on the back of this, and it's going to be fought in that region, mainly. One of my mates obviously turned and said, well, it happens every few years, there's nothing new in it, this. And I go, no, this feels different to me than any other conflict I've seen between the two groups, yeah? Since then, we've had Israel on a non-stop rampage, which what looks like to wipe out the Palestinians by saying, hey, we're after Hamas and they're hiding in the hospitals and whatever, that they always do, right?
Blow it up.
And then
mad. Now
you look at, and then you've got Hezbollah and Iran and all that sort of stuff going. You've got the Houthis out in Yemen as well, who are kind of playing their part and fighting Israel as well, and, you know, blowing up US and British ships and stuff like that. And then now you're seeing Israel going into Lebanon, saying, hey, we need to go after Hezbollah. They're in there, etc. I mean, look at the pager bombing situation where they use technology to get rid of these guys, some of their heads or whatever, their main guys. Now they've gone into Syria and they're dropping what they call earthquake bombs. Have you seen that on social media? Dude, bomb is...
Earthquake bomb sounds crazy.
I know a nuclear bomb is something, but dude, this thing actually causes seismic activity. And the one that they dropped the other week in Syria had what they call it, you know, the magnitude, they call it was like a 3.0.
Really?
Yeah, earthquake basically, and that's why they call it an earthquake bomb. But when it drops, you can, like, just watching it on the video was like, whoa, okay, kind of thing. Imagine being there. But anyway, I don't want to get lost into the technology and stuff too much. But it seems like what you just read is starting to unfold.
Clearly, yeah.
Yeah, where Israel is literally saying, we want the entire Middle East. We want it all. Yeah, we don't want just the Gaza Strip, etc., and the West Bank and all that stuff. We want it all. We want everything. Yeah, and they clearly are now going after it. Remember, Netanyahu, years ago, there's a clip of him as well, telling the US Congress or whoever it is that we need to go after Iraq. We need to go after Syria. We need to go after Iran. We need to go after all of them. You know, these people are going to do this X, Y, and Z. We have to... There's a clip of it. You can see it. That's no lie. He actually said that. And it looks like now, with this alleged letter, which some say it was a prediction, some say it was him laying out the plan. I'll let you decide. We'll let you, the listeners, decide. Like me and Treble have our thoughts. We've got to be careful. But it seems like that's what's playing out now. And it's coming to fruition now when you look at it, right? But look at the state of the world as well. You know, you look at corn addiction, things like that. You look at leftist ideology. Yeah. You look at how do we control the right? We've spoken about it on the Great Trump Debate. Go check that out on Rumble and Spotify, part 1. We've got part 2 coming up at some point soon. But everything is starting to fall into place. Yeah. And the bit where he's saying that kind of needs to literally end religion in a sense, and you only have Zionism, right? Remember, Zionism is not a religion. Yeah, it's an ideology, right? Zionists also aren't Jews. Let's get that right. Yeah. You got Jews and then you got Zionists. Jews actually follow their religion to the letter. Yeah, and I've got clips of rabbis and stuff like that, really, who are considered Jewish, not Zionists, and they tell you the difference between Jews and Zionists. Because these are the rabbis that are saying, who are also supporting Palestinians and saying Israel needs to stop what it's doing. But we also notice we live in a world now, if you say something bad against the Israeli government, you're an anti-Semitic. You're anti-Semite. But how is that? Because Israel doesn't represent every Jew on the planet. For me to be an anti-Semitic, I would have to hate every single Jew out there. And that's not the case. I'm against Israel, the government of Israel, not the people of the Jewish faith. But look how it's twisted. Look how the media sell it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the way.
So you look at how things are playing out, right? You look at Zelensky, Jewish. Zelensky's Jewish. He's not even Ukrainian.
It's mad, isn't it?
It's mad. So how are you trusting this man who's not Ukrainian, who's a Jewish non-Ukrainian, to run your country and be passionate about your country? Like it just looks like it's all starting to unfold and come. Hate to say it, I've predicted a lot of things over the last 10, 15 years or whatever, and so have my mates. And I hate to say it, I feel like this is that moment where it feels like this might be coming to life, and we're seeing it play out, and it's only going to get worse.
I think you're right, to be honest, because I saw this Albert Pike letter a while back. I'm not sure if it was a letter, but I came across this Albert Pike 3 World Wars, and in short, it was like the Third World War will be a religious war. And it's unfolding like crazy right now, because even like the right-wing conservatives, so yeah, you got the Zionists versus the Arabic world, that's kicking off even harder now.
Yeah.
But then even like, we're talking about Christianity, and you're looking at like the right-wing movement are very anti, the degeneracy side from the left, and that's going to stir up civil wars among them. But at its core, it's still a religious war. Then even in the UK, with like maybe say Tommy Robinson in that kind of group, and the extremists or the jihadists, for lack of a better word again, in the UK, even Western Europe with the migrant crisis, at its core again, that's going to be a religious war to an extent. What they were talking about in Germany this couple of years ago now, in Germany, when Angela Merkel was saying, bring the migrants over to Germany, we've got the space and we'll take them in. But then, within the year or something like that, there was talks about removing German sausage from schools, because with the influx of...
What? Because it was offensive?
Because of the influx of Muslim background people, the refugees and the migrants coming over, it was considered to be offensive to have that in the same school canteen, basically. So
the German Frankfurt, which is probably considered a national dish, needed to come off the menus.
There were talks about it, and the outcry, it came over to the news in the UK. This was like on the newspapers kind of thing. Like, this is a real topic of discussion. And I bring it up just to say, religious tension, at its core, that's a religious thing. The tension between religion is only getting more and more heated. And, as I said, look, in the Middle East, the conflict is literally with dropping bombs. In the US, it's more political. In the West, likewise. But this is all building up. And if we're looking at a letter that suggests that the Third World War will have to be a religious war, I think we are living through that now, very much so.
But I mean, look at what Keir Starmer said recently in his recent speech he gave, where he talked about immigration and the influx of immigration and why they've allowed whichever government you put in place, why they've allowed that to happen. He's talking about it was done on purpose. We have allowed all these people in on purpose. But then he's trying to play like, previous governments let you down. Previous governments did something. Mate, you were part of the opposition party that was supporting this. So you're part of this problem as well.
Yeah.
Stop. So, like, people aren't stupid. Like first thing, politicians need to stop thinking they are stupid, but they're not that obviously stupid where they're going to sit there going, well, yeah, you're right. You were innocent in all of this. No. But the point I'm trying to make is it's done by design. And we said this in the great Trump debate. We played that clip of Whitney Webb. If you don't know who Whitney Webb is, she's a researcher, author. Go check her out. She's a highly intelligent woman, very diligent with her research as well. And like I said about the whole immigration thing in the US, Trump has now been brought in to bring about that plan, part of the plan. And that part of the plan is to get us to submit willingly through manipulation, to the things we would not agree to during a certain period that we just went through. So I'm just going to say the years, and I'm not going to use the words because last time we got a bit...
Yeah.
Between 2020 and 2022, okay? There were certain things they were trying to put in place, digital IDs, all that sort of stuff, medical cards or whatever you wanted to call them, They were going to try and bring us, they wanted us to start participating in this stuff. And a lot of us were against it. A lot of us were for it, Now, what they'll do is just say, hey, we've got a problem with immigration. And you guys keep complaining, like in America, the voting situation. How do we know everyone who's voting is actually a legal citizen of the United States of America? Oh, guess what? We've got a way to deal with this. All of you get digital IDs. All you submit back biometric scanning. All you give us permission to use facial recognition cameras. Oh, by the way, let's use CBDCs as well. Oh, okay, yeah. You're gonna go walking. You know that picture I sent you once, where all these white sheeps are walking and they're all falling off the edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
And that one black sheep's coming backwards and saying, something's not right here. And then you got someone here saying, conspiracy theorists, it's safe. The telly said it's okay. All that sort of stuff, But that one black sheep is walking backwards like that. Nah, not me. Something's not right. That's literally what I'm trying to do for you guys right now when I say this.
But then do you think that black sheep might just get lost in the herd and pushed over?
But
if he's trying to back out,
it won't be willingly though, will it?
Yeah, you're gonna have to put up a fight at this rate, isn't it?
That sheep's gonna have to black sheep's fighting through.
Fight his way back out. Yeah.
Yo, this ain't right. Turn back. And the rest of them are pushing into him, and he's like, nah, I'm going that way. I'm going back.
And is it not inevitable though at this rate, especially with the advancements of technology? We're gonna have to get. Probably. I don't know. It's a tough one, but...
That's not what I'm saying, right? Okay, I've got nothing against technology. Yeah.
But like facial recognition, for example, as a system that we all use.
Well, you were against that last time when we spoke about it 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
When we worked together. And I said to you, these systems like facial recognition camera, all these things that they're trying to come up can be used for good. Anything can be used for good, right? And you were like, no, tell me how. And I was like, well, think about it, If, let's just say there's a certain road in the country, where it has the highest rate of child deaths because they're crossing over this dangerous road, right? Now, if you've got facial recognition cameras in place and you've got chips or whatever in place inside of people, or even these facial recognition cameras, and let's say a kid does the naughty thing and goes across this very dangerous road, right? The parents then get a message saying, this is your kid. We know it's your kid. Here's your fine. Tell your kid to stop crossing at that road. You were like, no, that's totalitarian. You're taking away his freedom right to go across that road.
That's true, though. That is true. I don't agree with that, actually.
But then what you're suggesting is also totalitarian because I have the freedom to go wherever I want in the country and plant my flag. Without that country saying to me, you don't belong here. Don't care. The world belongs to me. I'm human. You can't say, on one side, on this example, yes, that's true, you're taking away their freedom. And then say, hey, we got an immigration problem here, and these people who are coming here to be free and want to escape their thing, no, we don't want them.
Damn.
We want to restrict their freedom. Which is it, man? You're either for freedom or you're not. You can't be for both.
Damn.
You've got mixed ideologies going on in you, man. That's what I told you.
It's a tough one.
You can't. Like, either you're for freedom or you're not, man. And I said, anyway, going back to technology, yeah. Yes, it can be used for good, right? And I said that it could be used for good. I've got no problem with technology. It depends how you use it. But the problem is with the human race, we are easily corruptible. If you want to get biblical about it, that's why Satan loves whispering in people's ears, right? Because we're easily corruptible. Some more than others. Some people stay the course, but most people out there they think it's their voice and it's someone else telling them, hey, go do this. Hey, go do that.
Well, that's the thing. Satan actually, from what I read,
your wife cheated on you. Get revenge.
He never actually makes you do anything. He just convinces you to do that thing. He never does anything for you in that sense.
But you know what? One thing I want to explain to everyone about Satan, right? Okay, he has no power. The only power he has one power. He can't create anything. He can't create shit. There's only one creator. That's God, right? But God has given us the ability to create because he's created us in his image, right? Okay, and this is how I think. But what the one power Satan does have and is very good at is his power of influence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's very good at manipulating people into believing that he has power. So he'll go to someone and he'll whisper in their ear or talk to them directly and say, if you do X, Y, and Z, I will make sure I will give you wealth beyond your dreams. If you do X, Y, and Z, you will get power beyond your dreams. I will give this power to you. Yeah. And this control of the world. Yeah. And the life you want. So the person goes and does X, Y, and Z. And then they achieve the money, the power, and all that stuff that they're craving. And then they get on their knees to Satan. Oh, thank you, Satan. Da, 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 blah, blah, blah. All that shit. And Satan says, see, I told you. But actually, what you don't realize, take Satan out of the picture. If you still did X, Y, and Z, you still would have achieved that. Because he needs us to create for him. Because he cannot create himself. Hence why he will use human beings to win his war, his battle with God. Yeah, because he's out to prove to God that, watch, they're corruptible. And I'm going to show you how corruptible they are. And how they are not worthy of you. Because it's a weird kind of love. When you look at the stories, if you look into biblical stories, it's jealousy of Satan has of us because God's chosen us over him. You get it? Right? So essentially what he's turning around and now he's going to start doing is that's how he influences. He can't create shit. So he's got to use us who have been given the gift of free will and being able to create and innovate and do all those sort of things. Well, if I get these guys, these human beings, to submit to me and manipulate them into believing that it's me giving it to them, they'll do whatever I ask them to do and I'll own them. And then when they also die, I'll take their souls. So win-win for me. Yeah. And a lot of people think that they're going to get rewarded in the afterlife, like they're going to sit on some throne. No, you're not. You're going to get shredded to bits in hell. And that's the bit people don't understand.
How do we know that?
So, we talk about demonic possessions and all that sort of stuff, which we got to do a separate episode on anyway, yeah? All right? That's influence. Being able to enter your body, into your mind, and influence you to do certain things. Now, there's levels of demonic possession, but again, I don't want to go too deep into this because I want to do a separate episode on it. But you could just be a normal, everyday person, but then you now and then make the wrong decision or you do the wrong thing, yeah? That's a level of, of possession. Or you could see it like you see in the movies where it's way like there's 6 demons in a freaking person and fully taken over and their head's spinning around and doing all sort of shit. Yeah. Okay. That's like an extreme level of possession. And that generally happens to people who, generally from what I understand, to people who are very, very holy and very devout to their religion or their faith, right? But there's different levels to it all. But again, it's a form of influence and manipulation, right? Yeah, but also like an FU to God as well, kind of thing. But yeah, look, like I said, that's a form of influence. It's not a power. he only possesses one particular power, and that is the power of influence. That he can influence and manipulate you into doing things and corrupt you that way. Do you get it? But he can't actually go and build the things that we're building and design the things that we're designing. He needs us to do that for him.
So why then?
That's just my belief. That's not my belief system. Yeah.
Why are all those pleasure? Why do they feel so good then? Like,
but that's the reason why you do it. So why does drinking and getting pissed feel so good on some nights? Why does taking cocaine feel so good? Why does heroin feel so good? It's to get you addicted to something that's bad.
Well, I mean, they feel good because of the dopamine and
why do guys enjoy corn so much? Because the whole idea is to get you addicted to something that's bad. That's not good for you. That's tearing away at your soul.
Yeah, that's true. Shit, man.
And destroying you and making you, when the time comes and you got to stand and fight, you won't.
Docile. Yeah. So it's definitely a religious war that we're in. It's a spiritual war. It's a spiritual battle. And I think it's just, it's escalating. And when do you see this third world war to hit its peak?
It's really weird, right? Okay, so we got to be careful what we say as well, yeah? Especially about a certain demographic. Yeah, so I'm a little bit worried because we're on literally our last legs on YouTube. We're good on Rumble with Spotify.
We're being shadow banned though. I tried to show it to a colleague and he couldn't find it on YouTube.
Yeah,
and I told him like
hard. But Base said that as well.
And he spelt it both ways and he's like, I can't find it. So that was a bit weird.
But Base said the same thing when he did the Trump episode with us. He said, you lot have been, before we started, remember he said you lot have been shadow banned hard.
Yeah.
I told my mate about it and he goes, what's going on with YouTube? And I said, look, mate, we're on our last legs. We get one more strike, potentially they delete the account. And he was like, wankers. Like, he goes, what? He goes like, yeah. We're literally on our very last legs. We do have a backup channel, so we might have to just put everything back up there, but be selective. But should that happen? But yeah, what was I talking about before you said that? I forgot where I was.
We've got to be careful with what we say.
So we've got to be careful what we said. So you were asking, like where we're gonna. What was the question you said?
When do you see this conflict, this third world war, to hit its peak? Is it 2025?
So basically, right? It says, I think it says is it in the Bible? Right. So basically, right, in short, right, the Israelites were God's chosen people. All right. And it says I believe it says that also in the Quran and stuff. They were, yeah. But I had a clip of a Jewish rabbi who explained that, yes, we were God's chosen people. And he goes, remember the original Israelites were, yeah? He goes, most of us are just converted Jews, European Jews. Yeah, we're not actually, our ancestral background isn't actually that of Jewish people. Yeah, so where you see most people living in Israel who were saying right now, he goes, so the host was saying, like, you saying most of them aren't? He goes, yeah, most of them aren't. They're not. Their ancestral background is not Jewish. They've converted to Judaism. But he was saying that it says also, other people were saying this as well, that the whole world will converge on Israel. And at that point, Israel will then destroy everyone. And then literally Israel will be the center of the world. But there's loads, but like you said, there's loads of things like you don't know, unless you study it yourself, you don't know, right? So I'm just taking some of this information, what people are saying, but might have studied it better than me, but I've not looked into it deep yet. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to have to start looking deep into this. But from what I understand, once we have World War III declared, that's when we're going to be at the peak of it.
Do you think World War III will be declared like outright? Yep, this is on breaking news. World War III has started. Like, is that actually going to happen?
I don't know if it will happen like that. I don't know that. I don't know. All I know is that I know the definition of World War, what World War is, and from when you go and Google, I don't know if it's changed now because of those things. It was years ago when I searched it out. the definition of a world war. What is a world war? Or when is it classed as a world war? And all the current superpowers have to be involved.
Okay.
So you've got China, you've got Russia at the moment. I think France might be a superpower. I think Brazil's now considered a superpower. For example, India. And then you've got Israel, you've got the UK, you've got the States. I think Germany might be a superpower as well, because they're the biggest economy. Well, they did have the biggest economy in Europe.
I'd consider Germany a superpower for sure.
I don't know who the current ones are, but once they're all involved, that's it. It's a world war. So look out for that bit. Yeah, as these conflicts get worse and worse and worse, and other countries start getting involved, like the big ones, just go and say, what's the latest definition of a World War III? When is it classed as a World War III? And if it's still the same definition as I've just given you, and they're all involved, the current superpowers, then we're at World War.
And that World War will be countries choosing side over the Israel-Palestine conflict at its core.
That and other conflicts outside of it. I think definitely China and Taiwan still needs to kick off.
China and the Philippines is also kind of like...
Yeah.
China's just trying to beef everyone in that South China Sea area, to be honest.
And I don't think we're going to see an end to Ukraine and Russia, despite what Trump says. I think very much that's going to keep going because Europe are very much still behind Zelensky. Whether other conflicts pop up, I think those are going to be like the three main ones.
So what's that?
But
Asia,
then I think
Middle East, and Eastern Europe. Shit. Yeah, makes sense.
Whether something kicks off. Notice though, if you look at World War One and World War II, apart from what happened with Pearl Harbor, there was no real conflict in North America.
No.
As far as I'm aware from history, and if any history buffs out there listening to this and you know better, then let us know, man. But yeah, I just think when it hits World War, you'll know when you know. And I think that will be the point if it goes down that way.
But how soon do you think that this could happen?
Well, look at it's escalated already. Look at how quickly Israel's the Middle East conflict has escalated massively. Look at it, right? So it started off with, like I said to you, it started off with Palestine. It then obviously against Hamas, and then the Palestinian people are paying the price for it. Hezbollah now as well were involved out. Then Yemen and the Houthis from Yemen, getting involved as well. US are firmly backing Israel, and now they've gone after Lebanon, and now they're going after Syria. How long before they make their move against Iran? And Iran have retaliated to the things that they've been doing to Iran over the last couple of years. They took out I can't remember the name of the top general years ago. Iran didn't retaliate. I think they attacked one of the embassies or something like that of Iran's, or they attacked somewhere in Iran. And then Iran, we saw it months ago where it was Iran retaliated with their own drone strikes or whatever, missile strikes. It's growing out of control already. It's not even just about Hamas and the Gaza Strip like it normally is. It's about the whole Middle East now.
Yeah, it's happening.
It's happening. It's starting to unfold.
But most people are just, trying to make a living at the moment because it's tough for everyone, even in the West.
It's only going to get worse. Remember, there's got to be economic downfall as well.
Damn.
Remember what he says in there? There's got to be economic downfall as well. We're seeing that as well. We are now in a place now. If I'm honest with you, I feel like Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives were too soft when it came to the elite's agenda in implementing it. And they said, right, put Keir's in. They put Keir's in, and he is completely totalitarian in his approach. Like literally telling you, if you don't like it, get out. Bruv, this is my country, yeah. The people have put you in power. I didn't anyway, but
this is why I get annoyed with people who voted Labour, because come on, guys, really.
But I don't think it would have made a difference. I think it might have been of a more subtle approach from the Conservatives in terms of delivering what they remember. They all do the same thing.
True.
They would have been, and you might have felt it less. But I feel like they've put him in charge very much to like, come on, 5 years to go, get this done.
And he's gonna try and get it done, but that's just like
right now he is because no one's pushing back. We're not pushing back hard enough. There's some woman who went on LBC, and she turned around and said, "Oh, that's it. It's time for everyone in the UK to stop paying their bills." I'm like, okay. I go, how about you stop going to work for a week and just shut down the economy to send a clear message? You don't run this, we run it. You need us, and we don't need you.
Damn.
But then actually each individual has to make that decision. But when you're a low income family and you're struggling, or you're a single mum who's got low income and you're struggling or whatever it might be, you're looking at like, well, hold on, I've got to feed my kid, I've got to feed me. Do you get what I mean? You're not in that, maybe not in that luxurious position where you could probably take that risk. But then the way you have to balance it out is that, well, I'm doing this for my kid's future, so I have to take that risk now. It's a hard one, isn't it? Everyone's got to have their own personal choice. And remember, that's all by design. You got poor people, you got people a little bit above that, the working class, and then you got middle class, etc. And if you've all got different types of incomes and different kinds of priorities and different kinds of risks, how do you go about now coming together as one and saying, right, we're going to stop going to work? Well, the way you do it is like it says in the Bible. Is it love thy neighbor? Mm-hmm. Right. So if you're a little bit more well off, you know, you're going to have to help the ones that are joining in the fight who are on the low income. All right, we got you covered. We'll bring you food. We'll bring you this. Don't worry. But that's the problem. How do you get people to come together like that?
Especially in this world,
That's the kind of unity I'm talking about that it takes to and
make
you need
change.
Someone who comes along and says and tells people that this is how you need to do it. Yes, you will need to help and provide for this family here if you want them to join the fight. And if you want them to say, we're not going to go to work for a week, then you need to be able to support them when they need it financially. And that's the hardest part, when people have to give up their own money to help maybe a family that isn't theirs. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Even you're sitting there thinking like, why do I have to do that? I can see it in your face.
Okay, it's a bit mad doing it.
But how else are you going to get it done then? Because you're not going to get the lowest of the wage slavers to commit to it then. And remember, there's more of those who are filling your shelves and cleaning your streets than there are those who sit behind a desk. So essentially the ones that sit behind a desk and make a lot of money are the ones who are going to turn and say, no, we've got you financially. We are not going to work. We're going to shut down the country for a week.
Yeah, it's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen. But I'm telling you, because you asked me this question before.
Yeah.
And when I've had deep thoughts about it, that's what it will take. And it's not going to happen.
Nope.
So you tell me. So there'll be pockets of resistance, I think. And there's a lot of people talking a lot of shit. Yeah. All right. I've never talked that shit publicly. I never will, because I don't know what I'm going to do until I'm in the situation. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people you see them on social media, I'm just not going to comply. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. When your kid's starving, we'll see.
That's the thing, you won't know until...
Yeah, when you're hungry, we'll see. When you're on the verge of you're going to be on the street, mate.
And there's a lot of people on the streets now.
When it comes down to that choice, we'll see who you are there. Stop talking the talk, yeah? Let's see if you walk that walk when the time comes. It's easy to mouth off and write behind your keyboard on Twitter or wherever it is, on TikTok or whatever, but when it comes down to it, let's see what you're made of. Yeah. And if you're out there protesting on the street, that doesn't mean you're that person, because once you've done that protest, you go home, yeah, you eat your dinner, you go to sleep, you get up and you go to work next day. When it actually comes to the real battle, when it comes to that moment, that crunch time, yeah, we'll see what you're about. When they say, we are going to enforce this on you, he's already talking about, Keir Starmer's already talking about digital IDs being forced in. All right, this is that moment. Let's see that talk. And when he turns around and says, oh, you can't function in society without one, let's see that talk from you. And I guarantee you, because of the way this world is, most of them those who are doing the talking will submit to it. That's what I think. Because it's always the loud ones, the loudest ones in the room, who tend to be the weakest ones.
Man.
Because it's like when you're at a bar and there's that loudmouth, and then you say, and suddenly he comes up to that badass, and then he goes, you know what? Let's just step outside, bro. And then they're like, what? When they start doing that, the hesitation kicks in. That's what most of these guys yapping in comment sections are talking about. Those are the sort of people. And then it's never going to happen. That's why when you say to me, how much faith do you have, that I go, some people will dig their heels and say, nope, not going to do it. And they're the ones who are going to pay a real price. But I think majority of people out there who are talking that talk will go, no, we'll just submit.
Yeah, until that reality is begging for an answer, it's hard to say. Because, yeah, I mean, I used to say, oh, nope, not going to get nothing, not going to do the chips, none of that.
I never said that, but look, I said I wouldn't get get a certain thing a few years ago, and I didn't get it, yeah? But, and you were the same,
yeah,
right?
No, fuck that.
But there's more to come, yeah? And that wasn't going to cost me it didn't end up costing me my job, it didn't end up costing my livelihood, it didn't end up put me on the streets or anything like that. And same with you and many other people. So that was like a little test. What can we get society to do? Are they ready to be forced to give up their freedoms? No, we've got to get them to do it willingly. Yeah. Okay. And that's what that test was about. Now they're like, well, how do we get them to willingly give up their freedom? Right. How do we manipulate them to do that? And they've found ways to do that now. All right. But when it comes down to crunch time, yeah, even me, that's why I don't talk that talk. Because even I turn around and say, when it comes to that moment, what am I going to do? I don't know. I could sit and say, nah, I ain't going to do it. I'm going to fight it. But actually, when it comes to that moment, we're like, oh, shit. I might cave. It's going to be the real test for you, for all of us. Are you going to cave, give in, or are you going to stand your ground?
Depends. I get, yeah. Well, I can't say.
Do you know what I mean? It's like when we talk about conscription. I'm not saying there's any warriors out there. Yeah, there might be a few, but not many. Yeah. But if they turn around and say, well, you go and fight here, or we stick you in a cage here, what's your choice? Do you get it? Some people might say, well, at least I'm still technically free, innit? Well, you're not, but you get what I mean, yeah? They're not caged like an animal somewhere in some prison. Not that there's any space, apparently.
Yeah, let them all out.
So like, where you going to put them, right? You let them all out, just put the ones that don't want to go to war in there. Potentially, that could potentially happen, yeah. But I just feel like, even in that situation, you look at it like that, like, who's going to be who? Are you really going to stand your ground and say, actually, I'm not going to go and fight in this bullshit war in another country. I'll go to jail, fuck it, sod you.
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, but Muhammad Ali was, as much as I respect what he did, at the same time, remember, Muhammad Ali never ended up in prison or anything.
No, did he not? Just got banned from the boxing.
He just got banned for boxing.
Mike Tyson then.
He got banned for boxing, then eventually he came back. But he was out for a few years, a couple of years. I don't know how many years.
I thought it was like 5.
Something like that. He was out for a while.
Do they give food in the prison?
Yeah, of course they do, but it's not going to be like the high grade. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to treat you in there right now. I don't know.
It's like a hotel right now.
Right now it's a hotel, but in that situation, how they're going to treat you?
Don't know.
I'm not really worried about that. Yeah, about how they're going to treat you. I'm just like more in the case. I'm talking about the case of what's your decision going to be.
Yeah, I don't know until that time comes. And yeah, as we've had through the conversation, it's getting to that point now, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's getting closer.
But yeah, look, it make of it what you will. I would say to everyone. But at the end of the day, you're all going to have to make a choice at some point, and the world isn't getting better. These situations aren't getting better. They're just getting worse and worse and worse. And they're growing out of control. And you know it. And you're sitting there and you feel it. You feel, every single person out there right now feeling like you feel like you're in a hopeless situation, right? but you're also starting to feel the squeeze. Don't tell me you're not feeling the squeeze. Yeah. You are not just to your pockets, to your life, to your freedom, to what you can say, what you can't say. Yeah. Well, we're experiencing it on YouTube now, right? We're shadow banned. We know we were shadow banned. I knew we were shadow banned ages ago.
Shadow banned, got community strike, had like, 4 or 5 episodes already been banned.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, we're on the verge of getting kicked off this platform, of YouTube, right? Off that platform.
Don't know what would we do. We have to do a rebrand or...
Maybe. I don't know.
Shit.
But again, like, we're always going to say something that's probably going to upset because there's certain things, the things that we talk about. That's why Rumble and Spotify are the places to be as well.
For now.
Especially Rumble.
Yeah, Rumble for sure, but...
I don't think Spotify just shadow bans us as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, but Rumble, we pretty much say what we want. That's why I like Telegram a lot as well. But look, it's happening. You know, your freedom of speech is going. Yeah. You know, a lot of people say, well, there's X. X is not what you think it is, for starters. Yeah, Elon Musk is not on your side.
No.
Yeah, I have seen plenty upon plenty users on X complaining about the censorship from Elon and his team. There's plenty of it going on. Actually, from what I've been told, it's actually worse than it was when it was Twitter. That he's pulling down more content than Twitter did when it was called Twitter. The old owners, or what you want to call it. And then you have to ask yourself that key question as well. If the powers that be controlled Twitter and they want to censor us all from speaking the truth and revealing the truth, why would you sell Twitter, a massive social media platform, to an advocate of free speech? Just ask yourself that question. Question everything. Really think about it. Is it really free?
Everything.
Is it really free speech on Elon Musk's X? Nope. Why would they sell it to a man who's going to promote? This is what he said. He said he's all about free speech and everyone will get to say what they want to say on X. Why would you sell it to that man when you're trying to silence everyone? Just ask yourself that question and think on it. So there's loads of things that are happening, loads of things that are going on. And I think, yeah, but when it comes to World War III, what we've been talking about with Albert Pike and his alleged prediction, or him allegedly laying out the plan, I think, yeah, look, I think it's starting to grow out of control in that Middle East, man. And it's only going to get worse, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And to bring it up with the whole Albert Pike situation, as I said, this is part of, or he was allegedly part of a group of people, a school, for lack of better words. Like, it's a school, it's a society, and this is all in the plans. This is all what's unfolding. Isn't predictions, isn't coincidences. This is all a plan written down in pen and stones, and it's all unfolding. And if you look at the game plan, it's not a good one for the people. So interesting times we live in. Probably the most, maybe the scarier times, actually, when you look at the whole timeline. We're back at that peak of, well, social cataclysm, as he's put it.
So already there,
and we're living through it. So
you can't.
Exciting times, but scary times.
Cool. If somehow, some way, this video manages to get into your recommendations, thank you for watching. Please keep watching, subscribe, help the boys out here. Yeah, we are seriously in deep shit with YouTube. They have shadow banned us big time. It is hard for people, even if you typed our podcast in on YouTube, it's going to be hard for you to find it. Treble just told you that.
Yeah.
Not only that, at the same time, we have had a second community guideline strike a few weeks ago for our great Trump debate part 1, which you can only find on Rumble and Spotify now. We are going to do a part 2. That will not end up on YouTube because I don't want to hold back on that one. And I'm sure the boys don't either when it comes to that topic.
Yeah, let's do an all unfiltered.
Yeah, exactly. Just go for it. And we'll let you know on YouTube when it's up for you to go and watch it. But again, if you are stumbling across, because that's the only way I can put it, us on YouTube, then please, if you enjoyed what you watched, subscribe, like, push the notification bell, watch the other content too, share the content, because YouTube is not going to do us any favors because of the things we talk about. And this is what really winds me up. You see some channels out there who talk the same thing about us like we do and get away with it.
Yeah,
they claim they we're not allowed to monetize or whatever. But yeah, you've got 40,000 views or 200,000 views or 100,000 subscribers or 1 million subscribers. And they're talking the same ish that we're talking.
Pretty much this stuff's not
so like
out there.
But yet we're being completely shut down, which kind of tells me what David Icke said is that and even another channel that I watch, it's called Hugo Talks, and he says it as well. He goes, how is it all these big boys, all these guys, and he mentions Brand and Joe Rogan and all these guys, but he also talks about even some of the others, maybe slightly smaller channels than them, who are like 40,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. How is the algorithm works for those guys? I wonder why, right? They're getting all this support, and then channels like ours, which is pretty much saying the same thing, and we go deeper as well, for crying out loud, are getting literally shut down. And that's literally what's happening here. So fingers crossed this reaches you. We're praying it reaches you, and if it does, we're hoping you enjoyed it. You'll throw up a like, hit the notification bell, subscribe, share, and watch other content. And obviously, you'll see some end screen, which Treble will put up on the end screen, some other videos and playlists for you to go and check out. So please do. Treble, anything you want to say?
No, just carry on, I guess, yeah.
All right, like I always say, until next time, like, share, and subscribe. I'm Cypher.
I'm Treble.
And we out.
Allegedly.